In this Playwright tutorial, I will talk about timeouts in Playwright. So this is one of the important topic in Playwright Automation Framework, and I will talk about only the ones which are very frequently used in the Playwright Automation testing. The first one is test timeout. So you can set the any test execution timeout. For example, I have the 100 test cases. So each test cases should take less than or equal to 5 minutes. So like this, I can set the global timeout for the test execution. And also I can set the individual test execution time also. And the next one is assertion timeout. So for this also we can set the global assertion timeout, or I can set the even individual assertion timeout. And next one is action timeout. Say for example, I want to click on the button. So it will wait for the specified number of seconds. And if button is not available, so you will get the error or exception saying that test timeout with this particular element. So basically you can control the test execution by specifying the timeouts. In many cases where application will be not stable, or if application is not responding properly, in those cases you can save the execution time by specifying the timeouts in Playwright. And at the end we will see how we can set all the test cases execution timeout in Playwright. Now let's see an example for the test timeout. So here I will go to the VS Code and I will quickly create one spec file called 07 underscore timeouts dot spec dot ts. So that's it. So here I will go to the one of the spec file and I will copy the test from the other spec file. So that's it, and I'll paste it in the new spec file. So no need to worry about this test. So simply we are navigating to the google.com here, and then we are searching with the keywords, and we are clicking on one of the playlist, and finally we are validating the title of the web page, right? So it is very simple test what we have written here. So here I will rename the test case title as timeouts in Playwright. So that's it, guys. Now let's see how you can set the global test execution timeout, so which will be applicable throughout your automation framework. So simply you can go to the playwright.config.ts file, and here you can pass the one parameter called timeout colon, and here you can specify the milliseconds. So here I will add the 1 into, so 1 is nothing but 1 minute, and then seconds, and then milliseconds here. So that's it. So here I'm setting the 1 minute as the global test execution time. So each test should be executed within the less than or equal to the 1 minute only. And if it is taking more than 1 minute, so that test will be terminated from the execution, saying that with an exception called test timeout. So let's go to our test, and our test will execute less than 1 minute. So our test will work fine. So that's the reason what I will do is I will intentionally put an manual wait here by using await page dot wait for timeout. So here I'll specify the 60 seconds. That means 1 minute. So it will take more than 1 minute for the execution. So this manually here I'm waiting for a 1 minute plus this rest of the flow, it will take the another 15 or 20 seconds or less than that also, right? So it will be more than 1 minute, right? So this time we should get the test timeout exception. So let's run this test. And if you see here, so already our test flow got executed, but it is waiting in the whatever the wait we have specified for, like it's a kind of pausing the execution what I have done here. So it will wait for 60 seconds, that is nothing but a 1 minute, because whatever the settings we have done here, timeout setting. So if test is getting executed, if test case is getting executed before 1 minute, right? So that should be the expected behavior. And if this test execution is not happening within the 1 minute, so it will throw an exception saying that test timeout. So let's wait for some time and you will get the exception here. And if you see here guys, so we got an exception saying that test timeout of 60,000 milliseconds. So that is nothing but the 1 minute. So our test execution is taking more than the 1 minute. So that's the reason. So our test is getting failed in between. So it is not completing the whole execution. So this is how you can set the global test timeout. So this test timeout is applicable throughout your framework. Now let's see how you can set the individual test timeout. So simply you can go to the any test where you want to increase or decrease the timeout. So simply you can use test dot set timeout. So here you can specify this particular test execution timeout. So again here I'm specifying the 1 minute as the execution time for this particular test. So now I will update our global test timeout as 2 minutes. So now this time our execution will not consider the global test timeout. So it will consider only this particular timeout, because whenever you are writing the test dot set timeout, so this particular configuration will override our global configuration, right? So let's run this test and it will take more than 1 minute, and at the end you will get the exception because here we have specified the explicit wait. So let's run the test once again, and at the end you will get the exception called test timeout. So here I have added the explicit timeout because we do not have a such flow which will take the execution for more than 1 minute. So that's the reason I have hard coded the wait time here. So let's wait for a couple of seconds and it is going to throw us the test timeout error. So currently it is waiting for 60 seconds and total execution time required for this test is more than the 60 seconds. And if you see this error also, right, it is not taking more than 1 minute as the test execution time. And if you see here, so we have set the 2 minutes, but our configuration our configuration is overriding the global configuration, and it is creating the O1 test case timeout. So this is how you can use the test timeout, or this is how you can set the test timeout in the Playwright. Now let's see how you can set the configuration for the assertion timeout. So it is very easy. Again, you can go to the playwright.config.ts file, and here you can say expect colon and open and close flower brackets, and inside this one you can specify the timeout parameter value. So here you can say timeout. So this configuration is applicable for the throughout your automation framework. So whenever you are validating something, so this timeout will be applicable. So here I'm adding the timeout as 10,000 milliseconds, right? So whenever it started comparing any actual value and expected value, so if it is if it is able to find an element, and if it is able to compare both the values within the 10,000 milliseconds, that means that is expected behavior and it will get pass. That means your test execution. And if comparison is not passed within the 10,000 milliseconds, and eventually you will get the error as timeout exception. So now here I'm setting the timeout exception as 10,000, and here if you see here I'm comparing the page title here. So let me comment this line. So in the line number 18th we have written the one assertion here. We are comparing the page title, correct? So let me fail this assertion by passing the incorrect expected value, right? So what it does, right? So it will wait. So in this, especially in the line number 18, it waits for 10 milliseconds. That means, 10 seconds. Whatever the value here we have specified under the expect. So this is a 10,000 milliseconds. That means it will wait for the 10 seconds. And actual value and the expected values are not matching, and it will throw the exception called timeout exception. So let's run this test, and it should throw the exception with the timeout of 10,000 milliseconds. So if you see here, now if you look at this error also, so there is a timed out of 10,000 milliseconds, right? So here expected and actual values are not matching. So that is the expected behavior, right? So this is how you can set the global assertion timeout in the Playwright. Now you can override the global assertion timeout. So based on your need or based on the project need, so you can set the individual assertion timeout. So here I'm setting the individual assertion timeout for this particular one. So simply you need to pass here one object called timeout, and here you can specify the milliseconds. So here I'll say 5,000, right? So previously in the global timeout we have specified 10,000 milliseconds. So it was waiting for 10,000 milliseconds to compare the actual and the expected value. But this time it waits for only 5,000 milliseconds to compare this particular actual and the expected value. So you can customize your assertion validations by specifying the timeouts. So let's run this test, and previously it took 10 seconds for a assertion. So this time it will take just 5 seconds. And if you see here, so this time it took just 5000 milliseconds for comparing the actual and expected values here. So this is how you can set the assertion timeouts in the Playwright. So far you have seen how to set the test timeout and how to set the assertion timeout. So based on your need, you can set the test execution time and assertion timeout. So now let's see how to use action timeout. Say for example, if you take one example here, I am clicking on the playlist here in the line number 15, right? So this is one of the action. We are clicking on the element, right? So for this also you can set the global timeout. So you can go to the playwright.config.ts file, and here inside the use, simply you can pass the action timeout. So here also you can specify the milliseconds. So here I'm passing the timeout as 10,000 milliseconds. Say for example, if this particular link is not available, it will wait for 10,000 milliseconds, that is nothing but 10 seconds, and it will fail with the timeout exception. Now here I will simply pass the incorrect link so that our test will fail with the timeout exception. So let's quickly run this test. And if you see here, so our test is passed in the line number 15. That means it is trying to identify the link called Playwright TypeScript by tester stock. And if you see here, so we got the timeout error, right, with the 10,000 milliseconds. So this is how you can set the global action timeout. So similarly, so if you do not want to use the global timeout, action timeout, and you can set the action level timeout also. So let me just maximize this one, and let's say for example I want to set, or I want to find an element within 5 seconds. If it is there, then only you click on that element, otherwise throw an exception with the timeout. So let's set the individual action timeout by simply passing the parameter called timeout inside the click method. So here I'll pass the 5000 milliseconds. So that's it, right? So previously our test got failed with the timeout of 10,000 milliseconds. Within 10 seconds, it was not able to find this particular link, and our test case got failed with an exception of timed out 10,000 milliseconds. So this time our test will fail with the timeout of 5 seconds. Let's run this test. And if you see here, so this time our test got failed with the timeout of 5000 milliseconds. That is nothing but the 5 seconds. Now let's look at the how you can set the all test execution timeout. That means in your suite there are 100 test cases, and all the test cases you want to execute it, or you want the results before one hour only. So like that also configuration you can do it in the playwright.config.ts file. So you can set the global timeout. So that will be applicable for all the test case execution. So simply here you can pass the parameter called global timeout. So here you can pass, say for example I want to run all the test cases less than or equal to 1 hour or 60 minutes, right? So like this configuration also you can do it. So if all the test cases are not executing within the 1 hour, and that execution will be terminated with the exception of global timeout. So this is how you can use the timeouts in the Playwright automation testing.